A lot of this market movement has sort of already been priced in, not only in the last 2 weeks since the Biden administration has been really sending strong communication signals about this coordinated effort, but actually, in fact, since August of this year, when the U.S. started to put some pressure on OPEC Plus to increase supply. So I think that this maneuver has been long priced into the market.
You know, and let's be clear about, I think there's one major point that I'd like to make here, which is that the Strategic Petroleum Reserve was never designed to lower prices. That is not in its mechanism, correct? It was there if a hurricane knocks out refining capacity or some other bad thing happens in America, we're going to have oil that we can power the things that oil powers with. The SPR is not and never has been a mechanism to lower prices. Period.
Right. I think that your point about the SPR mainly being used to sort of rebalance the market in a case of a natural disaster or an actual supply crunch is the general way that we do think about the strategic oil reserve. So in fact, I think that yesterday's release, or rather the announcement of the releases of the physical barrels will be coming later in the next forthcoming months. But the release may be a case of a bit too much too late, because the oil market was in fact tightest and needed supply relief the most back in September when Hurricane Ida hit. And in fact, the Hurricane Ida was hitting these sort of crude sour grade supplies that you mentioned that are no longer necessarily going to be in high demand in the US, but instead maybe more sought after in India and Chinese markets instead. So the timing is a bit dubious. In fact, I think that you are correct in that.
Yeah, and we've got this OPEC Plus meeting coming up on December 2nd, and under their current deal, they do have the option to pause their increased oil production by 3 months. That's in their current deal. They're allowed to say, let's take a pause. Some have suggested they will in retaliation. I don't know about that, Louise. I know OPEC pretty well. And if they paused their 400,000 barrel a month increase, or barrel a day per month increase, it would look overly political. I think they continue with their course now and then wait to see what happens through the winter. I think doing a change in output this soon would then put them under the microscope of the U.S. Congress, which still, remember, has that so-called NOPEC bill floating around. It's all very complicated. It's all very political. What do you think?
Well, I think that, certainly the U.S. has attempted to artificially tame a high oil price and maybe not fully succeed in that. So instead of really patching up this tight oil market and easing prices, yesterday's announcement, like you said, it really unleashes more uncertainty of how exactly OPEC Plus is going to react. And sort of more of a geopolitical impact is that it creates this sort of tug of war between producers for higher prices and consumers for lower prices, which can only lead to a more volatile year coming up in 2022. So I do think that, our House view is that the oil market, even before the US SPR release, was already sort of in a slow walk towards fundamentally loosening already in the first quarter of 2022. So if OPEC sort of stays its course and keeps the 400,000 barrel per day increase, we're already going to see a looser oil market in the first quarter of 2022. And therefore, OPEC would not necessarily need to change its course of action unless prices get to a band level that are too low for its sort of comfort zone.
You think the path of least resistance for prices then, Louise, would be down?
I think that we have to wait until December 2nd and see what the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Russia, and their other OPEC allies have to say on that.